Two people pull into the same company parking lot every morning. One looks like a millionaire, and one actually is, and you will not guess which is which until it's too late.
Let me introduce you to Daniel. He arrives at 8:51 every morning in a charcoal gray Audi A6 he leases for $910 a month on a 39-month contract.
He doesn't park near the elevator because it's convenient. He parks near the window of the third-floor boardroom because important people can see it from there.
Daniel is a regional sales director. His annual salary is $97,000. He makes a point of mentioning the car during client lunches, casually, naturally, always on purpose.
To Daniel, the Audi isn't just a vehicle. It is a credential, a way of communicating seriousness before he even speaks.
It is costing him a future he cannot currently picture. And then there's Karen. Karen arrives at 8:19 every morning in a 2019 Honda Accord she purchased used 4 years ago for $19,800 cash.
The car has a small scratch near the rear passenger door that she never bothered to repair. It doesn't affect the way the car drives.
Karen is the company's VP of Finance. She earns $118,000 a year. She parks in the far end of the lot, near the trees, partly from habit and partly because she spent her 20s learning something about money that most people never fully absorb.
Daniel's net worth is $14,500.
A tangle of revolving credit card balances, his current lease obligation, a personal loan he took for a beach trip 18 months ago, and a $401k with $6,400 in it because he has been contributing 3% since his first paycheck and has never once increased the rate. Karen's net worth is $3 million.
They work in the same building. They earn within the same income tier.
The financial canyon between them did not open because of a salary gap, or a lucky inheritance or a secret investment they stumbled onto.
It opened in a parking lot. It opened over a car purchase. It opened the day one of them decided money was for demonstrating, and the other decided it was for building.
And it has been widening quietly and mathematically every single month since.
This video is about one of the most counterintuitive realities in American personal finance. The people with the most money consistently drive cars that would genuinely surprise you. Not because they cannot afford something better. Because the way they think about money is so structurally different from the average consumer's approach, that the car becomes the clearest external signal of the philosophy that produced their
wealth. Let's walk through it. The data here is not anecdotal.
Thomas Stanley's National Survey of Millionaires, one of the most exhaustive examinations of wealthy Americans ever assembled, found that the median vehicle purchase price among millionaires was
$31,367. Among DeKalb millionaires, households with $10 million or more, that figure climbed to roughly $41,997.
Now hold those numbers next to this. The average transaction price for a new vehicle in the United States has now surpassed $48,000.
That means the typical American spends more on their car than the typical millionaire does. Let that settle for a moment.
An Experian automotive study found that among households earning $250,000 or more annually, 61% of them drive Hondas, Toyotas, or Fords.
61%. These are families who could write a check for almost any vehicle on the lot, and the majority of them are commuting in a Camry, an Accord, or an F-150.
Only 39% chose a luxury brand at any price point. The top car brand among documented millionaires in Stanley's research: Toyota.
Number 2, Honda. Number 3, Ford. Mercedes appeared in 4th position, BMW 5th. Only 5% of millionaires owned a vehicle from the current model year.
More than half drove cars more than 2 years old. The average millionaire's vehicle is approximately 4 years old with roughly 41,000 miles.
These are not people who cannot afford new. These are people who understand something that most Americans have been quietly conditioned to overlook.
The car is the single most efficient mechanism for destroying long-term wealth available to ordinary consumers outside of housing. And unlike a home, which carries at least the theoretical possibility of appreciation over time, a vehicle begins losing value the moment the contract is signed. A brand new car surrenders roughly 20% of its worth in the first 12 months. By year 5, that loss is around 40%.
By year 7, most vehicles are worth less than a third of what the buyer paid for them.
The average new car monthly payment in America has now climbed to $767, according to Experian data from late 2025.
A growing number of buyers are carrying payments above $1,000 a month. Loan terms of 84 months, 7 full years of payments have quietly become standard.
Which means a significant share of American drivers are spending years making payments on a vehicle worth less than their remaining loan balance.
They are underwater, financially anchored to a depreciating object, sending hundreds of dollars every month toward negative equity while the clock on compounding runs in the wrong direction.
Let me show you what the math actually looks like, because this is where the conversation stops being abstract. Daniel leases his Audi A6 for $910 a month. Over 39 months, his total payments come to $35,490. At the end of that term, he owns absolutely nothing.
He hands the keys back, walks into the dealership, and signs a new lease because returning to a standard car at this point in his career would feel like regression.
He has been running this cycle for 9 years and will likely run it for another 25. Karen paid $19,800 cash for her Accord.
She plans to drive it for 8 to 10 years. Her total cost of ownership, purchase price, maintenance, fuel differential, insurance averages roughly $295 a month across the ownership period.
After 8 years, the car runs fine. She sells it for $7,500, puts that toward a replacement used vehicle, and repeats the process.
The monthly delta between their approaches is approximately $615, $615 a month, invested at an 8% average annual return across 30 years, grows to approximately $919,000. Read that number one more time, $919,000. That is not a projection from an optimistic model.
That is the mathematical output of a consistent monthly gap compounded over a working career. It is the distance between arriving at retirement with choices and arriving there with obligation.
It is the difference between freedom at 60 and necessity at 72, and it originates in the driveway, in the vehicle you selected based on how it would make strangers perceive you.
The car in your driveway is either building your future or quietly burning it. Karen's $1, $3 million net worth is not the product of an aggressive trading strategy or a windfall she got lucky with.
According to the Ramsey Solutions National Study of Millionaires, 88% of American millionaires are self-made.
Karen falls squarely in that category. She accumulated her wealth through the sustained discipline of earning more than she spent, month after month, year after year.
And the vehicle was where she defended the largest single component of that gap. Her car decisions alone account for an estimated $700 of her total wealth, more than half her net worth, from one recurring choice she made in her mid-20s and has simply continued making.
Every decade since, the same Ramsey study found that 94% of millionaires consistently lived below their means.
Only 31% ever averaged a six-figure income over their careers. 1 in 3 never earned $100 in any single working year.
The 5 most common professions among American millionaires: engineer, accountant, teacher, manager, and attorney.
Teachers, people the culture persistently frames as financially disadvantaged, appear on millionaire lists more often than surgeons and technology executives.
Because the profession is not what determines the financial outcome. The gap between income and spending is what determines it.
And the car is where most Americans voluntarily, enthusiastically, destroy that gap before they even start.
This is not personal finance advice.
But I want you to understand clearly why the vehicle of all possible spending categories is the one that most reliably separates people who build long-term wealth from those who never do.
There are 3 reasons. Each one compounds the others. The first is magnitude. A car payment is the second. Largest recurring monthly expense in most American households, exceeded only by housing.
$767 a month surpasses what most households spend on groceries. It exceeds what most people invest.
It exceeds what most people save.
When that single line item runs $400 or $500 above what practical, reliable transportation actually requires, the excess spending overwhelms every other financial habit in the household.
You can eliminate every streaming subscription, make coffee at home daily, bring your lunch without exception, and call every service provider to renegotiate your rate, and the aggregate saving from every one of those combined will not bridge the gap between a $350 car payment and a $850 car payment.
The car is the boulder, the lattes are gravel. Most financial content focuses on the gravel because it's easier to discuss and easier to feel virtuous about.
The boulder is where the actual money is. The second reason is duration. Unlike a restaurant dinner or a vacation or a new piece of clothing, a car payment persists.
60 months, 72 months, 84 months. It is a standing withdrawal from your financial life, running on schedule, requiring no active decision to continue.
By month 7 or 8, the brain has fully adapted to the payment. It no longer registers as a choice.
It is simply part of the landscape, a fixed cost of existence, except that it was never fixed, it was a decision.
One decision made on one afternoon in a dealership showroom that now extracts $767 every month for 7 years, while the thing you bought to justify the payment drops steadily toward a fraction of
what you paid for it. The third reason is social gravity. No other consumer purchase carries the same concentration of social identity as a vehicle.
Your car is witnessed by your neighbors, your colleagues, the person you just started dating, the parking attendant, your relatives when you pull up to their house for the holidays.
It broadcasts a continuous signal about your economic standing to hundreds of people daily.
Because our culture maps visible consumption to success, an Audi or a BMW communicates this person has arrived. A 3-year-old Honda communicates this person is fine, I guess.
The social arithmetic of car ownership is embedded so deeply in American consumer culture that most people would genuinely rather carry a car payment that strains their finances than drive something
modest while building real wealth. Daniel's situation illustrates this directly. His Audi payment is $910 a month.
His insurance, because performance and luxury vehicles command significantly higher premiums, runs about $360.
Premium fuel adds another $25 to $35 monthly. His total monthly vehicle expense clears $300 on a $97,000 salary. That's approximately 16% of gross income allocated to a single depreciating asset. Most financial planners recommend keeping all transportation costs, payment, insurance, fuel, maintenance combined, below 10% of gross income. Daniel is 60% above that ceiling every month for more than 3 years at a stretch. Then he starts the cycle again.
Karen's all-in monthly vehicle cost, averaged across her full ownership cycle, runs around $460, including everything.
On a $118,000 salary, that's roughly 7% of gross income, she sits well below the threshold. The annual gap between Daniel's approach and Karen's approach is approximately $10,080.
That is the amount flowing each year from Daniel's financial future into the accounts of a leasing company, an insurer, and a fuel supplier. Year after year,
while Karen routes the equivalent sum into an index fund generating 8% annually, watching the balance grow to figures that eventually stop looking like something she earned and start looking like
something that belongs to someone else, but it is entirely hers. Here is something that deserves more attention than it usually receives.
Thomas Stanley, in the research that became The Millionaire Next Door, identified a specific subset of wealthy people he labeled used, vehicle-inclined buyer. These were millionaires who systematically chose pre-owned vehicles over new ones across their entire financial lives. Stanley found that this group held the highest frugality scores in his entire dataset. They also held the highest net worth to income ratios of any group he tracked.
Meaning dollar for dollar of income earned. These individuals accumulated more wealth than any other segment of the millionaire population in the study.
They invested a greater share of their annual income than any comparable group. They were the most consistent savers,
the most determined investors, the most resistant to the kind of spending escalation that quietly erodes financial progress over decades.
Stanley's own summary of this group was unambiguous. Their frugality was not incidental to their wealth.
It was the mechanism of it. The affordable car was not a sacrifice they made on the road to becoming wealthy.
It was the instrument that made becoming wealthy possible in the first place.
Let's look at some real-world examples because the principle is easier to internalize when you see who actually lives it.
Warren Buffett, at various times one of the 5 wealthiest individuals on Earth, spent years driving a 2014 Cadillac XTS that he acquired at a discount because it had storm hail damage.
Cosmetic Dents, a man whose net worth routinely exceeds $100 billion, bought a car with visible weather damage because he saw absolutely no reason to pay a premium for appearance.
Mark Zuckerberg has been photographed in an Acura TSX and a Volkswagen Golf GTI. Vehicles priced between $25,000 and $35,000.
Ingvar Kamprad, who built IKEA into one of the most recognized retail brands in history and accumulated one of the largest private fortunes in Europe, drove the same 1993 Volvo 240 deep into
2000s. These are not calculated publicity moves designed to seem relatable. These are behavioral expressions of a coherent financial philosophy.
A vehicle to these individuals is a machine that moves a human body from one location to another.
The instant it becomes a symbol, it becomes a financial liability. Not only financially, but psychologically because symbol. Driven decisions are decisions made for the benefit of an audience rather than for the benefit of your own future.
Sarah Stanley Fallaw, who directs research at the Affluent Market Institute and continued her father Thomas Stanley's work, surveyed more than 600 millionaires for her book, The Next Millionaire Next Door. She found that consistent frugality was among the most common shared characteristics of the wealthy.
One of the passages from that book that surfaces repeatedly in financial discussions directly addresses this dynamic. She observed that spending beyond your means, substituting consumption for saving, or purchasing in anticipation of future wealth you have not yet accumulated, creates dependence on the next paycheck regardless of how strong your income looks on paper. That phrase, buying in anticipation of future wealth, describes Daniel's relationship with his Audi with startling precision.
He is not driving that car because he is wealthy. He is driving it because he believes he will be, and the car is supposed to be a preview of that future.
The problem is that the car is not a preview. It is a transaction.
Every $910 that flows to the leasing company is $910 that is not flowing toward the financial position the car was supposed to be previewing.
He is performing a version of the future while simultaneously making that future harder to reach. The preview is consuming the thing it was supposed to be previewing.
I want to address the objection I know is forming for some of you, because I hear it constantly. I need a dependable vehicle.